without further ado, I'd like to introduce the main speaker for tonight. The main speaker for tonight is Sahu Tao Shen, who is a Tai Chi Chuan instructor and musculoskeletal practitioner. Very powerful brother. And as always, family, just put some ones in the chat. Let's welcome Sahu to the platform. He's very popular on the platform anyway, so I know a lot of you guys know him already. So just put some ones in the chat as we welcome Sahu. Greetings, brother. How are you feeling today?
Yes, greetings. I'm feeling wonderful. I'm just really excited to get started on this topic. You know, it's in my life every day. Yeah. I go through class discussing mindfulness constantly, so it's just good to put it in a format. Yeah. Yes, so, greetings, family, as well. Yeah.
And by the way, good family, to see everyone. By the way, Sahu might be doing some, breathing techniques with you guys tonight. So it's not just going to be you guys sitting down listening to Sahu. He's going to be doing some techniques. So straight from tonight, you guys are going to learn some breathing techniques, do some meditation. So this is going to be a practical session, not just a session that you listen to. So I can't wait to get into it. Over to you, brother.
Yes, thank you. All right, so let's get started. So the hidden science of mindfulness, as it's being called, I named it Becoming Mindful of Consciousness, because when you start engaging more of your mind and you start paying attention to the world of you, around you, you literally become more conscious and aware. And you're also able to reprogram your subconscious mind. Mindfulness is an easy thing to describe, a really challenging thing to practice. And it is all based on repetition. Repetition truly is the art here. So the main reasons we practice mindfulness, I just put a few down just to appreciate before we get too deep into it, because we are going to go through the science of it as well to get an overview, a deeper understanding. So the main reasons why we practice mindfulness is to reduce this internal chatter, this brain chatter. In traditional schools of thought, they call it the monkey mind in Buddhism, where the mind's constantly chatting and talking and going at it. It's almost like observing two birds in a tree that's constantly tweeting and talking to each other. And it's like this in our mind. And when we're not mindful, being aware and being conscious of our mind, then this constant chatter never ceases. Constant feelings of doubt, worry, anxiety, second guessing ourselves, all that stuff comes. So mindfulness helps to resolve this issue here, or should I say put it under control, to reduce our stress and our anxiety. Because when you start reducing this brain chatter and the mind has less of a conversation, then there's less to be concerned about. There's less to be worried about, so then your anxiety drops. Another really, really important point from mindfulness is how we connect to the world around us, the world inside of us and the world outside of us. And that's a really big topic. I may just touch it a little bit today because we are constantly observing the outer world, but when we start peering into the inner world and taking time with that, and we have concepts that guide us on that journey, all the stress that happens outside in the world really reduces. But then that's something that we're going to get into during the course, definitely, to get not enough time in 40 minutes to an hour to describe what that teaching there. Same with focusing your mind better. When it comes to mindfulness, you're able to have clear thought on a particular topic at any one time over a period of time. And I'm going again to greater detail, the main different ways we focus. And understanding your pain is a really important thing, because in understanding your pain, it's like understanding your emotions and your feelings, discomforts that arises. And we've gone through some of this in our pain course, where we talk about different types of pain and where they're coming from and how to reduce that type of pain, whether it's a neurological pain or whether it's a musculoskeletal pain. So being mindful also gives us this clarity when we start to assess our body and how it feels. In the world now, there are two main schools, I would say, of mindfulness. You got secular mindfulness and you got traditional mindfulness. And secular mindfulness is the Western world's approach to mindfulness, where they've taken the main and the key aspects from traditional mindfulness. So they've gone and observed traditional cultures, indigenous, religious ways around the world. And they've taken the main features and they've created a program. And these programs are practiced like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is usually used for depression. Also, we have distress reduction, which is used for pain relief. And they are generally 8-week programs that are very effective. And also this acceptance and commitment training. That type of training you generally find within the educational system, the court system, the clinical system. It offers one the opportunity as the person receiving the course to appreciate other people's approaches to life, to be mindful of other people's pain. So they do this kind of course here. So that when they're interacting as a doctor and a patient, and we're dealing with people from different cultures, they're able to process the information without being biased. So this is secular mindfulness, and they're generally really trying their best not to be religious. No God factor in this from an external point of view. And when a lot of the research as well is really based around placebo or a control group that's not doing an activity and a group that's doing activity, but that group doing the activity isn't doing it in a religious concept. It's only purely to alleviate mental stress or some kind of pain. So there's no reciting of sutras, there's no reciting of words. And I want to go into a minute, I'm going a bit ahead of myself, but I'm going to go into that in a moment, traditional methods of mindfulness, where the secular form of mindfulness has taken it from. But most of the research is in secular mindfulness that I'm going to discuss, and a few within traditional. So I put these books here for us to appreciate for a moment what I was saying, because we are looking at ultimately psychology when we're using secular form of mindfulness. Neuroscience is involved also, but these are all stems of science of the modern age that has taken knowledge from the old world. So in the old world, we were already practicing mindfulness. We were already mindful and we were already practicing internal teachings. Ultimately, that's what mindfulness is. However, that source of teachings comes from an older place, because that's like refined thought here. We're looking at it here from wisdom teachings, like the Odu Ifa, which is a teaching from Nigeria, which teaches about how to refine your character. The teaching of Ptah, again, which is talking about refining your character. Onto D.I. Grant, the same thing. So when you go into mythology is like an advanced form of human thought. It's like in its perfected form. The deeper you understand yourself, the deeper the mythology starts to unfold. So we get true human thought, true human expression, true human way of being, true human way that humans have always sought to correct it in these ancient texts. But then it gets refined down into this format here. So then we can pass on the knowledge as wisdom. It takes time. And once we obtain this wisdom on this journey of understanding who we are and becoming mindful in this world, one has to understand your nature. And what is your nature? What is your true nature? And our true nature is local and non-local. It's the aspect of ourself that is in all places, no place. It's the part that talks to you internally. No one else hears, exists in a time, space, location that no one else can see or feel other than the creative spirit force and yourself. Your true nature is more than a physical being. It's more than that. And that needs to be remembered also as you're going along the journey. Because when you remember that, then there's an appreciation that there's an illusion going on. And it's through this illusion that we're trying to work ourselves through. They're observing this reality, perceiving it to be truly as it is. And there is a lot of research that shows it's a hologram and it can be manipulated. We can change our narrative and change the world around us upon our thoughts, depend upon our thinking, how we look at the world and what we do in the world. So we go back to secular mindfulness for a moment. These 8-week programs are generally based around a 15-minute meditation a day. And that generally is done morning, afternoon or evening, doesn't really matter. But what is found after the 8 weeks of comparing it to a group that didn't do the meditation after that time there, that they have an increased sensation of being satisfied. Compassion also increase, concentration, increased social sense of connection. There is a really good research that was done. There was a really good research that was done that expressed this in 2019. It was released, this particular research, and it's talking about soldiers that went off to Afghanistan and the effects on them when they came back. And those that didn't do that, mindfulness meditation compared to those that practice mindful meditation. So they had a group that done mindful meditation before they was deployed, and they continued their training over there. And there was a group that did not meditate mindfully before and were also deployed. And they found that those people that had the mindfulness training, when they were out in the field, they were able to actually assess more effectively threats that were immediate to them. So if somebody suddenly came out, they wouldn't just turn and shoot automatically. They would turn and look and were able to realize it's a child. So it would just reduce their trauma dramatically. Also found that those that was the placebo group, when they were deployed, when they were there, they were contacting the person who ran the course to actually learn some of the techniques. So they themselves actually started to use the mindfulness technique while they were deployed, and they had significant benefits. So they had a group before and a group during, ultimately. And this is the general benefit of the same cognitive behavioral therapy effects that you receive. This same feeling oneness of the world around you. It's only because you become more compassionate as a result. So the main tools that are used, because in the secular approach I just described, they were focusing on their breath, and that was actually the only thing they were doing. They weren't doing no form of traditional form of practice, like which is noted down here. So just focusing on their breath for 15 minutes, they had that. From a traditional point of view, we have all these lovely tools, which is contemplation, devotion. So contemplation is a reflection upon events that have happened in your life through the day, what has taken place in the past or even in the future, where you have no attachment to what you are contemplating about, which is the ultimate goal of contemplation. So when you are mindful in a state of contemplating events, whatever feeling that arises, you're just trying to let it go, move it on. Devotional mindfulness is actually having a sutra, having like the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, or having any kind of scripture and just repeating that with that focused intention and observing how you feel as you're reciting that particular phrase. And devotional is different from using word power, let's say, because in word power would be an affirmation. And when we're affirming, we can create our own, but from a devotional point of view, it's a text already taken from a spiritual order that you're just reciting to be mindful of that particular practice or that particular way of being, that particular emotion that you're trying to generate inside of you will be along the devotional path. Then you have your word power, as I said, where we're creating an affirmation of your will, of your desire, of your making. And they are the most powerful, to create word power of your own feeling and emotion and intention. And to have that phrase, whether you use one phrase and then repeat that, or whether you have phrases that build. So you have emotions or feeling that you're desiring, then you have another one, then you have another one, and you're just building it in stages as a form of affirmation. Obviously, clearly better to write these down. And then you have concentration, form of mindfulness, where we're focusing on breath. We're focusing generally on one thing. Let's say we're counting, or we are focusing on a particular point, a sacred geometry, a crystal, a candle, your reflection in the mirror, looking in your eyes, and the room is dark. Or should I say, there's a slight light lit. So you can just about see your reflection and then concentrating into your eyes. And that's peering into your consciousness. We have different forms of concentration. Again, this is more traditional. Secular wouldn't be doing none of that stuff there. Just a focus on your breath and returning to the feelings in your body. And every time your mind gets distracted, you come back. So you have compassion also, which is the expression of love, the expression of devotion. And that can be done with words, that can be done through mind, and that can be done through practice, through intention. Compassion and visualization, which works through all of them, can work alone, where you are visualizing mindfully an outcome or a situation that you want to manifest. So these are generally the traditional forms of mindfulness that we practice. We are going to enter into mindfulness that we are going to be trying to utilize in our everyday life. And there are three main areas that we really need to pay attention to. See it there? Intention, attention, and the right attitude. The intention. Because as we are practicing mindfulness, to be mindful of what just took place in our mind, what we just saw. However, we have an intention to have the correct attitude, which is not to be hard on yourself, because you're going to return again and again. You have to go easy on yourself, because it's like constantly failing, constantly. So we're paying our attention to the correct attitude. So attention also is related to being present in the moment as well, which is the main theme. To be present in the moment, observing your inner self, your feelings, your thoughts, the world around you as they arise. As our mindfulness is on our breathing, then our intention is to return back to our breath. And that Doesn't mean you have to be sitting down in your house on a chair, cross-legged, on the toilet. Doesn't mean none of that stuff there. You can be walking through the world. You can be sitting on a bus and sitting in the park. You can be waiting in the queue in a supermarket. And then you can just be saying to yourself for a moment, you know what? I'm just going to focus on my breath for a minute as there's a whole heap of noise going on around here. I'm just going to slow down and I'm just going to connect with my inner self while I wait this queue out. And then every time you get distracted by something out or inside of you, then you say, oh, okay, and you just come back to the breath that you're observing inside of you, still observing the world around you and the world inside of you. That's being mindful while living life, while moving through the world. A bit easier than we may think. As we move through life, but from a meditative point of view, from sitting down and being in your home environment, from consciously looking to practice mindfulness while you're still, then there is clear guidelines that we do need to be aware of. I'm sure many of us who are aware of mindfulness is aware of this. We call it meta-awareness, and it encompasses all what I just mentioned a moment ago, which is to be present and aware. That means you're paying attention you're paying attention willfully. And to be willing to pay attention, to be willing to be present and aware, that willingness just like poof, opens up the door. Then the next statement is in the moment. So we are present and aware in this moment, which is a challenging thing to do. So we do this on purpose and with kindness, because as we keep on with our intention, returning back to paying attention in this present moment and to be aware right now, we have to do this every time we forget about that moment. We have to do this. So we have to be, again, easy to ourselves, kind to ourselves. So we do this with no judgment. So we do it with acceptance. So we are present and aware in the moment, on purpose, with kindness, non-judgmentally. I think out of the whole statement here, what is phrased as mindfulness as a practice, from a therapeutic point of view, to be kind to yourself and to pass no judgment, I think are the two main things, are the two key things to be aware of. To be kind and to do this with no judgment. So this is meta-awareness. So what we're going to do, as we have gone through a brief understanding, of mindfulness. So what I would like to invite everybody to, for 3 minutes, just to focus on their breath, and to focus on the breath with this in mind, to be present and aware in the moment, on purpose, with kindness, non-judgmentally. So in a few moments, when your 3 minutes begin and you engage with your breath and you start breathing, however you choose to breathe, because you just deep breathing for a moment here, just natural breathing, all thoughts are going to be coming in. And every thought that comes in, just bring your attention to it, acknowledge it for the thought that it is. In this moment, we don't need to follow it through. We don't need to play it out. If you desire, you can place it in a bubble and then watch the thought float away. And I observe with the bubble technique, where you put a thought in a bubble and watch that float in your mind's eye, as you're not trying to be distracted, because you're trying to focus on your breath for a few moments here. The thought comes back again, and again and again. And then you just got to keep on putting in a bubble and watching it flow until it stops. And then all of a sudden, you may have another thought, maybe 30 seconds later, you get a short reprieve. Maybe if you're really good, 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Generally, it's really challenging to be purely in thought for a few breaths. So let's see how this goes. Right, Leon, let me just go and get a time. Let me go and get a timer.
All right, family, get ready because we're going to start doing some breathing exercises in a bit. So hopefully you're in a space where you can actually do these breathing exercises and focus on your breath and concentrate and not have any noise around you. But yeah, I'm going to let Sahu explain it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, I've got my timer now. That's how I wanted to, I was really calling Leon to keep the time for me, but I've got that one there. So we're just going to observe our breath for these 3 minutes here. And every time a thought comes in, we're just going to bring our thought back to our breath. Try your best just to maintain that practice there. Okay, so find a comfortable position. Place your feet flat on the floor. You can have your back off from the backrest. So you got a natural straight curve to your back, head upright. Okay, so we're going to begin. You can lightly close your eyes. Close your mouth as you breathe in and out your nose. As you're there breathing, just feel the quality of the air as it comes up your nostrils. Observe if both nostrils are allowing air to flow up equally. And the same for as you breathe out through your nose. Observe the pressure of the air as it comes through the nose. The warmth as it passes your lips. If your mind wanders, just bring your mind back to your breath. Feel how your body expands as you breathe in. Feeling your belly expand, your chest. Visualize the breath as you breathe in and you feel your whole body expand. Okay, so bring yourself back. Slowly start to open up your eyes. Just rotate your shoulders, move your body if you feel the need to. So if we've done this exercise, I would like, if there's any questions actually right now, I'm happy to answer any questions you can go through. Because we just done like true brain training. During that process there, anytime you actually brought yourself back to your breath, every time your mind wandered, then that's the workout. That's the effort. That's the hard work. This is what we call mindfulness. Any questions?
If there's any questions, family, you can just raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question. Shirley, hold on. If you can unmute your mic, sis, Shirley.
Hi, Leon. Nice to hear you.
Hi, Shirley. How are you?
I'm not too bad. This is the first time I've done the mindfulness where I've actually noticed that when our brother said about getting noticing how the air goes through your nose, because normally I would just breathe and then fall asleep. So I was kind of really focused on seeing whether it was the same pressure going up both nostrils. So thank you for that. It was more of a comment than a question.
Oh, I'm glad.
Sometimes I do find it hard to get rid of the chatter that goes on in the brain when I'm doing it, but I was really relaxed doing this just now. So thank you so much. I'll try that again and concentrate. Your talking really helped me to focus.
I'm really glad. But you know, that's the work, you know when you say the mind chatter and you find it really hard to focus, that is the journey, because it's always going to happen. And it just, you go through cycles where there's less, then there's more, then you don't hear nothing, then you hear a lot. So it's just a beautiful journey.
There's a question in the chat, brother, and it says, why do we do this exercise? It's from one of the attendees' 8-year-old son. Why are we doing this exercise?
Why do we? Because it's interesting, because
Oh, sorry, daughter. Sorry, daughter.
Last week I was teaching a group of children, and I was doing a breathing exercise of a child, and we were doing the same thing. And I asked him what was the importance of breathing, and then he goes to me, to breathe. And I'm like, okay, then that's one of the reasons which is important for breathing. So I was explaining to him, other than this feeling of feeling calm, balanced, relaxed, having a more positive attitude, feeling more connected in the moment, other than all that taking place, there is also an improvement of activity or function. So we become more creative. We are able to design things. Our mind is able to be more spontaneous. Like we are all of a sudden, we're more robust, because the heart and the lungs being so closely connected, and then this diaphragm also being very closely connected with the heart. So then as we're breathing slowly and we're mindful of our breath, it's like we're literally slowing down the heart rate, but we're increasing the pressure. We're having an increased flow of blood taking place at a slower heart rate. When we end up breathing mindfully like this, and as a result, we get more blood to the head, we get more blood to the legs, more blood all around the body. So I hope that answered the question in a nutshell.
Yeah. Angela said just 3 minutes, but really effective. And Polly, you've unmuted your mic, so you can ask your question or make your comment.
Greetings all. Greetings, Leon. I think he's answered a bit of the question I was going to ask, because with the breathing exercise and the meditation, because I was in an African country for a good 9 months, and I found it hard to meditate. When I was in England, I had no problem with my meditation, but when I was there, it was so difficult to meditate. So I'm back again, and I'm finding my meditation is kind of opening up a bit more now. But what he talked about, getting to all parts of your body, that's the main thing I was interested in, because, you know, the healing, the breathing, and how the way you breathe, it really help most of the parts of your body inside, especially with illness.
Yes. We're going to touch a bit on the science of mindfulness and when we're breathing and how it affects our brain waves. And them different brain waves have a direct effect on our different systems in our body. So we're going to actually go through that right now, actually.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sis. All right, one last one before we go through that, because Fiona did have a hand up. So Fiona, if you can, let me see. Fiona, sis, if you can unmute your mic. Hold on. There you go.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Sahu. Greetings, family.
Greetings.
My question is this. I found the exercise just now very interesting, and it brought home to me how negative my mindset is. Like all the negative thoughts are popping into my head almost constantly. How can I address that?
Yeah, that's why we've got that guy with the gym thing on his brain, with the intention of constantly returning back to your breath. That is actually the because with meditation we have hundreds of different forms of meditation which really do address that, where you can do different techniques to be focused with fixed focus, as opposed to an open focus. So there are many different ways. The ultimate thing is to start to develop this idea of just returning back to your breath, returning back to counting, or returning back to a sensation in your belly as it expands. Have a fixed point to return back to. When I was practicing Tai Chi, before I was aware of this, what I'm describing here, my fixed point would actually be Tai Chi. So I would walk through the world on the way to a supermarket or going to work. If I had stress in my head, I would actually start going through the hand form, and I would actually visually go through the whole hand form. And if I got stuck, I would just restart it, because it's in the darkness of my mind and things change in a 360. If I turned in my mind's eye, the whole world would shift, so I would lose the form. So I would just keep my mind focused. All them other thoughts wouldn't even come in. I was so focused on trying to, and that was my intention. So
yeah,
loads of methods. But in this, we're going to talk about returning back to some sensation inside of yourself.
Yes, family. So there are people that keep on raising their hand, but we're going to move on. That was exercise number one. That was mindfulness exercise number one. There's more to come, family. So I know all of you, well, many of you said that you enjoyed that one. It was only 3 minutes, but let's let Sahu continue on. So over to you, brother.
Yeah. So we've done the big works, and we know how this mind chatter works now. You have to just keep bringing yourself back. So now we're going to enter into the science of mindfulness. And through that, they have found that we actually can modify our genes, our behavior. We can actually modify, or should I say, reduce pain. Because in this modern world, when it comes to modern science, it's all about health and longevity. And it's really all about immortality. Ultimately, how can I live here forever? And how can I live here forever with less pain? So when it comes to doing research, it's really all about that, even though it may be under certain other guises. And they call it modification, or being able to modify your genes. So our RNA is able to change depending upon our environment and our situations, the things that we are around. So when you become mindful and you start expressing your true intention, your true being, your true self, the world changes around you. The people around you start to disappear or start to add. The places that you go start to change. The food that you eat starts to change. All that ultimately starts changing your DNA. And as that starts to transform your DNA, it's like, as we're built upon all our ancestors, depending upon what stage we're at, then it's like different aspects of our being starts to manifest. So therefore our behavior changes. The reduction of inflammation, because that just kickstarts the endocannabinoid system when you start practicing mindfulness. As a result of kickstarting that process, then you just start feeling really blissful, reducing that whole pain process. And that is attributed to anandamide, but that's something that we're gonna have to go through in the future. And all that stuff that ultimately just slows down your aging, because your tendons, your bones, your muscles, your vessels, all these aspects of your body are more pliant, more dynamic, able to move more flexibly, because your mind isn't rigid no more. It's amazing when you have a rigid mind, you have a rigid body. You have a free mind, you have a free body. I come across people in my work where their emotional content determines what part of their body is afflicting them. And depending how they view that, their attitude towards that determines the degree. It's, these things are this amazing way they connect together. So if we go into the brain for a moment, we got 4 major parts that when we meditate and we enter into this state that are really activating. This frontal lobe, you know, all to do with our rational thought, our ability to reason through a situation. You know, an emotional problem arises and we need to be able to think about a solution to the problem. Well, our frontal lobe is what does that. And during meditation, all that stuff there actually calms down in your frontal lobe, which helps you to detach from your work, the stuff that's going on. It helps you actually then to relax. Then your thalamus, which is to do with your motor and sensory signal to your cerebral cortex. All that slows down, again, because you're receiving less motor information from your muscles, from your joints, less sensory information, I say, from your muscles, less motor from your tendons and your joints. Because you're receiving less information, it makes you feel calmer. All this takes place amazingly within a 15-minute process, and all has been catalogued within an 8-week practice of doing it every day for 15 minutes is what we're talking about here. So any really research we're talking, it's based around this understanding, doing it every day for 8 weeks. And we can actually receive the same results from doing it every day for a month. So you got your parental lobe, which is either side, you know, your frontal is there and then the thalamus is internal. Your parental lobe, where you have this sense of time, slows down. Again, lowers anxiety and it lowers down stress. And your reticular complex, which is to do with your alert stateness of your mind, how you respond to situations. This also slows down, allowing you to be actually more calm. So you got your frontal lobe, thalamus, parental lobe, reticular. These start to deactivate. And what takes place is we start experiencing alpha activity from being in a state of wakeful state. In a beta activity where we're oscillating between 15 and 40 hertz, just alert in our everyday life, just moving through the world. We can be in that higher alert aroused state at 40 or a bit calmer. But as soon as we start entering into a meditative state, a reflective state, we sat down, and let's say we even done the 3 minutes, we start to lower our brain waves naturally, and we start to enter into an alpha, where then we ultimately enter into a theta. In order to go into deep states, we do need to enter alpha first. And again, you'll be surprised how easy it is for us to enter into alpha and theta, experience it by default quite frequently, and actually not be aware what brainwave state that we're in. So if you ever get that feeling of being self-transcendent, feeling that you're just a part of the world around you, part of nature, that you just feel connected, like you just feel that feeling there, then you just entered into alpha state. And that activity of the frontal lobe, actually, even though the brain waves reduced, there is a lot of activity actually still taking place there, because it takes over from your limbic system, which is your emotional center. And then your ability to focus on what you're deciding to starts to improve. So silent meditation achieves this. Transcendental meditation achieves this, which are more esoteric, would seem, sort of meditation. But the deep silence, just listening to yourself, man, you don't need nobody to teach you, to sit down and be silent and to listen to that voice within. Once you start practicing that, then the alpha oscillation naturally start to increase. And the more they increase, then the more there is a decrease of the world around you. Again, direct correlation on how that operates. So then over time, as we start to disappear into the landscape of this illusion around us, as we start to enter that state, then we enter into a theta state. So, you know, boy, everyone must have been doing meditation. I found this image here, which goes back to 2200 BC or 100 BC, around this time in Mexico. And when I saw this image, I thought, it's interesting. That pose and posture looks similar to what we will be doing. Man, there is no other way to connect yourself, to access your inner being, other than through clear intention thought, through connecting with your breath. Alpha power calms the nervous system, lowers blood pressure, lowers the heart rate, cortisol and such things. These things are reduced and promotes relaxation as a result, which is interesting because this is not mindfulness that I'm talking about here. Like, we haven't even entered into a mindfulness state. We're here in a meditative state where we're entering into a state of mindfulness. So you know where this last, that 3 minutes, you can say then, that is preparation into a state of mindfulness. And while we're in that state, we will experience the lowering of blood pressure, the lowering of the heart rate, increased blood circled around, moved around the heart, and the calming of your nervous system. So now we're going to enter into mindfulness. And when we enter into mindfulness, we're actually utilizing theta brainwaves when we enter into that state there. And theta brainwaves are actually slower than alpha brainwaves. And generally, once you've entered that state, you know, we refer to the third eye or the first eye, the all-seeing eye, the ability to see through time and space. This is theta brainwaves. When we're able to enter this space because we've taken time not to be distracted by every emotion that's passed us by. So we're not reacting to everything. We're non-reactive. We're present in the moment, and we're observing something in that moment. When we enter into that state, we are in a place where we are generally doing an activity which is, we do with flow, we do with effortlessness, which is really profound, because if we can enter into theta brainwaves by doing a action which is repetitive and being focused into that action there, and that creates it, what would be the difference between doing meditation, sitting still consciously, and being able to create theta waves? Because that is the thing. When we make a choice and we do that with intention, it's far more harder, and the benefits are far more rewarding in the long run. because we do things by default. So we can have out-of-body experience, transcendental experience which is profound, where we're just mindless, let's say. We're actually sewing, knitting, or washing clothes, or we're preparing food, or we're playing a sport, we're doing something, we're skipping, we're swimming. In that state there, and we're observing the world around us, observing the task that we're doing. That form of training, intentionally sitting down and trying to achieve that, like it causes you to move really quick through your development. If I just say that in a short way, you just start to expand your consciousness really quick, taking control of your inner being. So the benefits now from Ptah is that you get a positive, an increasing positive mental state. You are able to create stuff. Your ability to solve problems improve. Your memory improves. Your focus improves. And naturally, because you have better focus, better memory, you're able to resolve situations creatively around you. A positive mental state, you're going to feel calm. So once we enter into that state of mindfulness, these are the benefits we start to experience, because the theta waves in the brain are amplifying this through our whole field. So therefore our whole field starts to transform. So this time we're going to go through the same exercise. Well, it's not even the same exercise, because when we do it different, it's a different thing. So we are going to focus on the breath this time for the same 3 minutes. But this time, as opposed to just focusing on your breath, we're going to return to the body briefly before we return to the breath. So that actually means we're going to, once we've observed our mind has gone somewhere, we notice that, we're going to come back to our belly. We're going to come back to our hands, to our shoulders, to anywhere in our body, to your chest. And after you do that, then you're going to go back to your breath. And you're just going to focus on your breath. Because it's an interesting thing. Because to just focus on breath means that anything comes in, you know, so that means no counting. That means no direct intentional sensing of your body. So only when you get distracted, then you would go back to your breath. So that was what we done a moment ago. So this time, when you observe yourself traveling or come up with a thought, then you're just going to bring it intentionally back to a body part. Yeah?
You want me
So
to
this
do
time
the time?
Yeah, I'm gonna get the time going here. So this time, I'm gonna talk less, because I'm gonna give everyone an opportunity to actually practice this themselves. Every so often I'll remind you to do that. All right, everybody ready? Find yourself in a comfortable position again. That means have your foot flat on the floor. You have a nice natural curve to your back. Shoulders relaxed. Just intentionally engaging with your breath. Okay, we're going to begin. So as before, just going to breathe deeply through your nose. I'm just going to breathe out slowly. So as you breathe in and expand, just naturally allow your whole body to expand. And as you breathe out, just naturally allow your whole body to relax. At any point during that process, your mind wanders. Then bring your mind back to your body, back to the sensation in your belly. Observe chest expand. And then return your thought back to your breath. And this whole body sensation, like your whole body breathing. As you're breathing through your nose. Then after a while, you want to forget about the idea of just breathing through your nose and just breathe. Let's return back to your breath. If you've been observing your body, if you've been observing your thoughts, then return back to your body. Okay, so everyone slowly open up your eyes and just return back. So hopefully in that practice, we were training our brain to, as opposed to returning just back to the breath, we're returning to the body first, then to the breath. Before we move on, any reflection or any questions?
A question just came into the chat. It says, are you breathing through the chest or stomach?
You see. Breathing through the stomach. Ultimately, I know I didn't even go through how to breathe in this moment here, but we are breathing through the stomach, lower belly. So we would be, as we breathe in and we visualize the breath going down to the lower belly, beneath the belly button, as we breathe in, we feel the whole belly expand. And as we breathe out, we feel the belly relax or go in. So that would be diaphragmatic breathing that we're actually practicing here. And that's like the only way to breathe, really. I mean, everything else is training for a different part of our consciousness or being. But you know, day-to-day living, day-to-day activity during sport and work, we should breathe diaphragmatically.
This question says, hold on, I think I've lost it. Where is it? When I've meditated, I see messages in the form of images. Why is that?
And that will depend upon length of time. If you've gone past alpha brain waves and you've entered into theta, and then through theta now is connected with the third eye and our ability to see through time and space, or to see stuff, pierce the illusion. The third eye is able to pierce the veil between this and the other reality, able to see the illusions of the stuff, the light, the beautiful images around us when you enter theta. So that is because you went into theta brainwave.
Let me see if there's another one. Oh, someone's got their hand raised. Let me see if this person wants to speak. Paulette, you have your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sis.
Yeah. Okay. When we were doing that breathing, is it supposed to make you then because I felt like my breathing became shallower. It was like it was calming down. Is that something that's supposed to happen?
Yeah, because in true meditation, then meditative practice, your breath is supposed to be silent. It's not supposed to be heard. You know how we breathe heavy, and our breath is audible and can be heard. That's considered like bad circulation of energy. So when the breath lessens, the pressure reduces and it becomes more silent. That means we become more internal and we're able to access internal things much more easier.
So you shouldn't hear the breathing at all. Huh?
Yeah, so when you're entering into true practice, you shouldn't hear the breathing at all.
Look at that. I didn't know that.
It should be silent. And your breath shouldn't be straining, which is another sign of poor utilization of your body. So a strain would be being able to breathe out your full breath and being able to breathe in your fullest breath, which would be considered straining. So you never breathe in to the fullness of your breath. You will therefore leave like 30% capacity. So you can be breathing in here for 30 seconds and still leave 30% of your breath left to breathe in. And then when you're breathing out, you don't breathe out to the fullness of your ability to breathe out to use strain. You would leave again 30% left where you could still breathe out. So even if you're breathing out for a minute, that minute shouldn't be where you're straining. So somebody may experience that within only 4 seconds, let's say, where within 4 seconds you can breathe in. And as you're breathing in, you're starting to feel everything straining really quick. And as you start to feel this straining, then you feel like you already got to the fullness of your breath. Then really you need to be breathing in 2 seconds. So then, and you need to slow down the pressure, the amount of air coming in at each moment as it flows into your lungs. It's like playing a flute.
Yeah. All right. One last question, family, before we move on. This one says, why do some people fall asleep shortly after engaging in the meditation process?
Yeah, because they're unable to focus. Because if your intention is to meditate and not fall asleep, then you should not fall asleep. That's your intention. But because that attentional mind is not trained to be able to focus, then you drop off. Another reason is fatigue, mental fatigue. We haven't got enough energy circulating and not enough blood circulating in the head. So then once we start breathing and we start increasing the blood flow around the head, the brain starts to there's almost like an overdose. But it needs to sleep. I experienced a similar thing for a good year or so, I believe. I can't remember how long. Where every time I went to meditation class, because I was learning in the city, I remember I used to go and sit down, and in meditation, the idea of being there in the class meditating, I'll fall asleep and I'll be gone. I'll be like this, and I'll come up and I'll look to see, and everyone will look like they never sleep. Everyone was upright, and I remember and that was fatigue. Because I'll come straight from work in the city, even though I'm still doing therapy work. I was working in Covent Garden, and I'll go to Kensington, and I'll go and do this meditation class. I spend most of my time sleeping in there until a couple months later, I was able to focus my intention and stay true to my intention. Yeah, so that's mental fatigue a lot of the time.
Okay.
Right, if there's no more questions, yeah, I think we're ready to move on.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So just a recap there. When we practice mindfulness, we are stimulating theta brain waves. When we stimulate theta brain waves, we are connecting to this third eye, which allows us to pierce reality. We are also having an improved effect on our cognitive awareness, creativity, mental solving issues. We are also able to calm ourselves. Before we get there though, remember we've gone through alpha state, which has already calmed us down, slowed our heart rate down. Gone. because the heart's always going and we've got this adrenaline going on. As soon as the body senses that there's a reduction in heart rate, it's like, oh, it must be time to sleep. Them time you're supposed to be active, but it's only because you're just operating also at a accelerated rate. The heart's also always moving fast. There's always cortisol. You start to go into that state, then the endocannabinoid system starts activating. You start having the neurochemical anandamide flowing through your bloodstream, which makes you feel really good, really calm, really blissed out. You're gone again. Once you get through there now, you can pierce through that and you can enter theta now, where now you're able to activate this frontal lobe a little bit more, and you have all these wonderful ideas starting to happen because it doesn't even done there. Once you get through theta, it's amazing. We just went from 40 hertz all the way down to about 8, which was the theta stuff we just went through, and we're just gonna fly through gamma. But we enter gamma when we are extremely focused on something. And that is the brainwave activity that they are finding in seasoned, as they call them, seasoned meditators. Someone who's been doing it for like 30 odd years, 20 odd years. The person who's in a monastery and doing it every day, you know, they're doing their focus attention on one of those traditional approaches that I mentioned earlier on. And as a result, they're able to have huge gamma wave activity, which is just a really, it's like, go back to meta awareness. It's like what the term Buddha means, to be miraculously aware. Just to be miraculously aware is like present. When you enter into a gamma state, it's like you're able to feel and sense everything everywhere consciously while you're awake. Because that oscillation there is not that dissimilar from rapid eye movement or being in a deep state of sleep and having a lot of brainwave activity going on as you're traveling. This gamma oscillation done intentionally is the same thing. So this is long-term meditational practice, which allows you to achieve that, but that's not what we're working on. You know, we're working on this concept of being present here in the moment to get the brain lighting up. When we're present in the moment, being kind to oneself with no judgment, we can change the whole makeup of our reality. And as a result, because we got this stuff called neuroplasticity in the brain, neuroscientists assume that the brain, I have to say assume, that the brain, when we're born and we get to an age of adulthood, and that's debatable within modern science, because it depends on what part of the brain they're referring to that determines what an adult is according to neuroscience. However, our brain, we have the same neurons from basically from adulthood to when we ascend. So during that process of time of our adult life to ascension, we have the same brain matter. We can lose stuff, but we're not growing stuff according to neuroscience, but we can change the neurons to do different jobs. So we can cause one part of the brain to let's say recede, and then we could cause another part of the brain to expand. And that can be done through mindfulness observation, and this creates a shift in your genes. I put this image here because when you're in a mindful state and you enter into theta brainwave state, we're having a lot of activation going over the frontal lobe. You know, I was describing also when you're in theta state, let's say you're washing clothes or you're doing some kind of task that you're doing effortlessly, mindlessly, without no focus, but you're just doing it and you're just going through. Same like doing knitting, something that you can totally absorb yourself into, called the flow state, an activity that we're doing and it's just effortless to us. we have frontal brain activity. So this is what this image is showing, that all the blood at the front of the brain has increased and improved. So this is an image of someone who's in the flow state, and they're actually not doing meditation, and they're not in a state of mindfulness. So it actually shows a really interesting connection between being in a state of flow and where blood flows in the brain, and also being in the state of mindfulness, achieving the same thing. We're stimulating the same part of the brain. So we can get benefit from choosing activities. That's what I love about the old world, because then you would see in depictions, drawings, sculptures, women generally together doing activities while talking, but doing some kind of creative something. And I can only envision that this was some kind of creative flow and conversation that was going on. And as a result, the brain would have been stimulated in a certain way. We do have to find and reconnect to some of these actions. So I'm just going to go through now the intention, attention, and attitude before we finish up. So the intention is always to be mindful on purpose through life or in a meditative state. And we're going to set that goal, number 2. That's the goal we're setting. And number 3, we're just going to keep on returning back to the goal. And the goal is to be mindful. So while we're doing this, we're always going to practice the idea of being forgiveful to ourselves, forgiving ourselves for any distractions that come up. It's really important, you know. It's going to happen without a doubt. So you just got to set it from the beginning. It's okay. Yeah. It's no longer the concern of what should I do about that. It's more the concern, well, that's going to happen, and it's okay. That's what I'm doing about it. It's all right. Just accept it. Forgive yourself if you get trapped by it, and then just go back, return back to the breath or to whatever it is that you're being mindful of in that moment. Be kind to yourself also. Yeah. Don't be surprised about that one day, how often you're going to have to do that. And as you hold meditation and practice this more frequently, it will just expand and it will grow inside your consciousness. Yeah, so let me just play this little video. It's like a 2-minute video. This is what we experience out here. Yeah.
That video is sick.
I know, it's serious. I said, you know what? I got to put that in there. This is like a true expression of what we experience. And we're just chopping down, cutting down everything, chasing every thought, every desire, every feeling. Ultimately making it worse. Like cutting the head off the Hydra and then a couple more heads grow.
No, that's deep. That's deep. People love that video, bro. That video.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One, get that one, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad because it's just something that is so important to get this intention that we are setting, that intention there. So let's move on. Go on, Leon.
I don't want to give it away, but everyone understands that the flies represent, well, they could represent anything in it. So, but yeah, everyone can interpret that video however they want to interpret it. But yeah, no, that's a sick video, boy.
So, how are you interpreting that one there?
The way that he wasn't able to just meditate and not think about the one, so he went after the one and created two problems. He literally
That's what I'm saying.
He created two problems by trying to kill the one fly. Do you get me? And then he was multiplying his problems the more he weren't concentrating. I
know. This is life though.
Big distractions, yeah.
This is life, man. This is the same question the young lady asked earlier on, with all these thoughts that come in. And we're concerned about them. So we go to chase them, to cut them down, to weed them out, to destroy them. And ultimately we're actually adding fire. We're actually expanding it. We're actually growing it. We're feeding it.
Yeah. And one more thing that I got from that video is he thought that if he gets rid of the fly, then he can be still.
Yeah.
Do you get me? But then he realized if he's still, then the flies don't matter.
That's what I'm saying. That is the beauty of that little clip there. That appreciation.
But we do that all the time with life, innit? If I just do this thing, then I'll be happy. If I just do that thing, then everything's okay. If I just do this thing, then I'll be happy.
And we're constantly chasing. Constantly. And we're not satisfied. Chasing the aspects of this illusion here. It's an amazing thing. Right, I think good for me to go on?
Yeah, people are loving that, boy. People are loving that video still.
Because it leads me on to bring to everyone's attention that when research done again, that when we total and add up all the sensory information that we receive in the world around us, through touch, smell, through what we see, through what we hear, all the information in a moment, they estimate it's like 11 million bits of information, like every single second, about 11 million bits of information. And we are only conscious of 60 bits, they estimate. Imagine this, out of the 11 million bits of information, because it's almost impossible to truly calculate how much information any life form receives in a moment or in a second. But this is the average kind of thing going on. So we can really work in a very, very, very small amount, and that can expand. And that can expand through two forms of attention that we practice, which is this focused attention and open monitoring, which we've actually gone through. So actually, for a few moments, actually, because I was going to actually move this one on, but I think we will do this because, as we said, focused attention and open monitoring, and we're aware now open monitoring is a form of mindfulness that we're actually observing around us. So we are going to, in this technique, just for 9 breaths, we're just going to breathe in and breathe out, but we're just going to focus on the actual seconds of breathing. So then we're just going to breathe in, let's say 3 to 4 seconds, and breathe out. And we're just going to do that 9 times. And you can do that in your own time. So as you're going through this, just going to breathe, count to 3, 4. If you can do 5 seconds to 5, then breathe out. Just focus on your breath and just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then breathe out. Bring your attention to your lower belly as you're doing this. But really, your attention is on counting. Count every breath in and count every breath out. Hopefully, I think some of you may have finished by now, with everyone breathing at different patterns. But I hope you acknowledged during that you were able to focus a little bit more by actually just counting instead. So instead of the idea of just breathing, which is the ultimate goal of mindfulness, just to be silent in your mind and to have no thought. But we have to start somewhere. And we can't start with the concept or the idea of no thought, or just the idea of just a single thought of breath. So we have to build up to take away, and we have to know where we are. And this is, again, a really useful technique actually to have something else to focus on. So all you're doing is just expanding your belly as you breathe in and just counting each moment. Really effective and calming. I hope everyone acknowledged in that moment that there was less mind chatter in that moment there. And you know the most profound thing as well? I say that and you've done 9 breaths. And if you were able to hold 9 breaths and you were able to maintain thought with those 9 breaths, then you are like really at this moment doing really, you're like superhuman. Because at the moment, generally, I'm talking about an average person in this world right now, in the Western world anyway, about 3 breaths, they estimate that a person can just about keep their thought on without another thought entering in. 3 breaths. Breathing in, breathing out. Let's say you're doing 5, that's 10, that's 30 seconds. And if you're doing less than that, then that's like 20 seconds of pure thought on just your breath alone. So this kind of technique helps you to maintain focus on your breath by having less other thoughts coming and starting to reduce it down to the 1. And then after a while, you just let go of one of the ones, or in this case, which is counting your breath. So as you're focusing on your breath, put this little chart to get a little appreciation of the cycle that we go through. So you focus on your breath in the beginning, like what you just done. You said to yourself, I'm going to breathe in for 5 seconds. I'm going to do that 9 times, breathe in and out, just to bring myself to the present moment, just to calm myself down, just to reset myself, just to restore my inner being. So you start there, and you start thinking about stuff. So stuff starts coming in, so you start thinking about stuff. So then the idea is to be aware of that, which would be, wow, okay, I'm no longer on my breath. Then you would refocus and go to your breath. So the bottom 2, focusing on breath, refocusing on the breath, revisiting your intention, which is your breath, is where we really need to be playing around. And we can think about this one here. When it comes to thinking about other stuff and bringing your awareness, we can actually shift from there, where we can be thinking about awareness, then realizing that we're thinking about other stuff, and then go back to thinking about the other stuff, then realize that we were thinking about other stuff, then going back to thinking about other stuff and playing this weird game. And all along, the subconscious is telling you, you don't even need to focus on breath. Can you breathe every day? You breathe every day, and I didn't need your help in doing this. But unfortunately, most of us are starting to breathe incorrectly because of the lives that we're in, because of the lifestyle that we pursue and the environments that we are occupying. Put a lot of stress on us. So we do have to focus on our breath. And as it is autonomic, it is an automatic system within us, but it's also a system that we can take hold of and control. It gives us power over this human form, extreme power that most of us never grasp, never take hold of, never enter into your inner world and see the vastness of reality from within. Someone said to me today, one of the students said to me today, that about astral traveling and leaving body, you know, and personally, because we're talking about this inner practice, this inner awareness, once you go down that journey and start becoming aware of this, you realize you're not even traveling out nowhere. The whole of this reality is inside of you. The whole of this universe, every corner, every aspect, parts that are not recorded by humanity in this modern era, it's already there in this blueprint of your body. It's already here. When we enter into the pineal gland and we go in, travel in to go out, a true inward expansion. It's like, I don't know if anyone into the Doctor Who, like the TARDIS. You enter into the space here and it's bigger on the inside. It looks small from the outside. You enter into the room, this is the pineal gland. The thing, there's only one of them. And it's in the center there. And it's just one little small gland with no other body. But you enter into it and it gives you the whole universe. You know, where is the I in the soul story? So I'm going to go through that quick. Just bringing to our attention that we have different parts of the brain that actually work on attention. And we are, through attention, concerned and alert and focusing and looking important things in reality around us. So these are the main parts of our brain that actually offer this opportunity. There was another research that I came across where they took 5,000 people from 80 different countries and assessed their daily thoughts and what they thought. And they found that 40% of the time, their mind wandered. And as a result of their mind wandering, 47% of the time, they felt more anxious because there was only, in a sense, productive half of their day. Which is a problem, paying attention, because once we get disrupted, that 47% of, let's say, time wasted, once we get disrupted, generally, they found that same research that it can take 23 minutes for us to actually get back on task. This is all how mindfulness helps, like to shorten these times, to put the mind back into order, to put it back into gear. We're doing a task on the computer, get a text, we look at it, we answer it, we go back to the computer, and we may actually start doing another project or sending another email or go to something separate. So task switching is very interesting. Everyone act like they can multitask. My daughter act like she can multitask. That same research, they took those people that said that they were really good at multitasking and they gave them another test, and they found that they actually don't perform really well. And as a result, they actually train themselves to become distracted. So their anxiety levels increase because, I suppose in this sense, they said that they can do it really well, but they never perform to the level that they should perform to actually achieve this test in this actual experiment. So ultimately, multitasking is not something that we can actually do. We just jump from one thing to another. And this is the problem with meditating or being mindful, is that it's like we're just jumping from one thing to another. So we have to now learn how to, because anxiety will do that to you. It'll have your tentacles spread out everywhere. How to bring it into one. You know, we're bringing ourselves one to one with our breath or with counting. When we have something that they call working memory, which is the ability to hold on to your ethical code or to your intention or your ideas, your foundation. A lot of people who are not able to hold on to this, funny enough, actually get a lot of pain in their spine, a lot of pain in their lower back as a result, because they're constantly being challenged with their ideals, what they believe, how they think things should be. And because they're unable to maintain their foundation, then it has an effect on the rest of their consciousness. So mindfulness does allow you to improve your working memory, the ability to hold on to the code that you say you are going to be, the I am that I say I am, that I am going to be. But it's a process that actually, again, takes time to build up, because all around us, we have, someone mentioned it earlier on, biases. We have something called, when it comes to attention, negative bias, where we automatically assume that there is going to be a negative outcome or it's going to go a certain way. And we have loads of different forms of biases, if you can see here. You know, psychology is well up in this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 18 different forms of biases, from stereotyping bias, where you see someone and you assume that's how the person's going to be based on your past experience. Confirmation bias, where, yeah, I knew it was going to be that way. All these different biases ultimately are negative biases that we use to protect ourselves. Like this, as an image. A lot of us will see this image and say, that's a cute little dog. We work on this idea of acceptance, because we've gone through the world and we've seen this image, but it's just the way our mind works. And then we see something like this and it's like, okay, not as attractive. And these again are all based on our past bias, and we have to be mindful of this. And you see a little baby and you're like, ah. And you see this brother and you're like, what the heck, what's going on there? We have to learn ultimately how to respond to situations rather than reacting to them. And this is what, again, mindfulness does. Because then when you go back to your breath, it gives you an opportunity to just think. Because now you start to activate your frontal lobe. And all you was doing was focusing on your breath. And if you do that long enough, it starts to activate theta. And as you start practicing this more and more, because it's a challenge, you develop resilience. And you don't have to try no more. You just are able to focus on that because you've developed a resistance to all those different thoughts coming in. And as you're going through this and you start developing resilience, you become a person who respects yourself, becomes self-driven, discerning, tasteful, it's amazing, nurturing, gritty, because you know, anyway, we're like this anyway, when we're in our right state of mind. And you become more compassionate and focused on others. Because you are resilient because you're not taking every knock and taking it personal. You're able to take that knock, make it slide off your back and move forward. That's the strength you're developing. So the last section here, attitude, is everything. It's the attitude, you know. Gone through intention, gone through attention. Now we have to have the correct attitude with our attention and intention. So with this exercise here, this isn't a meditation, but it can be like one. It's like a word power. Fear is my greatest obstacle. Action to create is my greatest power. What I want everyone to do here is just to reflect on it for a few moments. You can use it as an affirmation. You can use it, we'll start now. Or you can use it just to think about it. What does this mean? Fear is my greatest obstacle. What does this mean? Action to create is my greatest power. False evidence appearing real. We're only processing a very small piece of information compared to the totality around us. And that is a real concern, because we are receiving part of the information. Or we can actually, through action, create great change. I think this is a very powerful affirmation to use, to recite, to go through, to remind yourself. I'm going to give you a few more moments just to reflect upon that. Fear is my greatest obstacle. Action to create is my greatest power. All right, so we're going to move on. So why was that important? Because it's the story that we tell ourselves, what we have to be aware of. It creates our attitude. This is what we have to be mindful of. Our family, how we were raised, the racial group that we belong to, nation, the country we reside, the influence of government and what they say, scientific research and history. All these things here dictate to us how we be, how we think and how we act in this world. And that is not generally our true nature. And that's why we have a lot of stuff added on. So we have to be aware what knowledge is coming from family, from the nation, from the government, what information we're taking on from scientific research, and have the correct attitude towards it. We don't fight it. We don't need to stress ourselves out about it. What we do, because I'm sure I've said this enough times, accept the situation for what it is. You hear that? Let's let it go. Let that go. Just accept it for what it is. Sometimes, especially when we're trying to understand something that we don't get from another person, another being, and we're trying to understand why they make certain actions and choices, unless they explain it to you, better just let it go. And once you can do that, then we can find a way to accept ourselves, who we are in this world here. Because everything is truly and ultimately right with you. And you know the way you were created perfectly, however you are in this moment here, however you express yourself. And in this moment, you have the opportunity to grasp and grab all those factors of your life that you desire not to be, put them in a basket, and you can watch them go downstream. And you can start picking literally new aspects. And that's like almost, they're into DNA stuff right now. It's like turning on certain DNA and turning off certain strands of DNA. And I just see that as like activating different aspects of your ancestors, putting them on. It's like you're just like a kaleidoscope, just trying to align everything up. So ultimately, everything is right with you. And when you know that and you're aware of that, then you can enter this world with a really good attitude, which would be to be curious. The wonders of this reality is just profound. And when you truly acknowledge that, because we can go through phases where we actually forget this. The stress is so constant. We don't even see the wonders of the world around us. Once we can be curious of the little things around us, and we have the courage to go forward, and we do that with compassion, we truly are unstoppable. These treatises is really a useful way to approach the world. To be compassionate, to step forward with courage, and to be curious about the wonders of reality around us. So we're almost coming to the end, So these are some of the other attitudes that are really important to start engaging with when you are practicing mindfulness. So non-judging, I assume we appreciate that one there. We're no longer judging ourselves for the choices that we make. So our minds assess and judge endlessly. And we just accept that. That's what the mind's supposed to do. It actually is not really supposed to do nothing else. That's its job, to think ceaselessly. So we accept that. We be patient with the process. The process ain't a quick one. And as I said earlier, there are stages where you just flow and all of a sudden you lose it. For example, there was a time when I still do it, but I would meditate every single morning. And I would meditate, and I got to a stage where I will enter and I'll be gone for the 50 minutes that I'm meditating. So I'm meditating, let's say 40 minutes, because then I'm doing, probably is like 50 minutes, but I'll do that first couple minutes was there to get into it. And then the rest of the time was just to spend time there in it. So there come a time when I was there and I'll go. And then something happened, which was quite stressful in my life, which, yeah. You know, when you live in this spiritual, you're on this journey here, it's like, the more you live a spiritual life, then it's like, the more you better be ready for extreme things happening, extreme challenges. Like you have extreme challenges happening in your life when you're not mindful and you're not meditating, you're not living spiritually. But when you do decide to, you are challenged more because it's against the norm. So you have to be patient with that whole process. So then it gets worse. I don't know if I'm selling it bad here. However, as a result, I lost that space. I was really surprised personally. After that event took place, let's say it was like 3 weeks where I had to bring myself back to normal. A couple of days, let's say depression, where I was silent and I was in my world. Then a few more days coming back into the world till I got to the world. A couple of weeks later, I'm back in, like nothing never happened. Okay, I'm back to the world. I go back into my meditation now because I was doing it, but you know, it's just everything has to build back. So I'm back in it and I go into meditation. And then all I can think about is the event that takes place. I go through time, that starts to dissipate. Okay, so a month or so later now I'm back, no thought on the event, but now I can focus on breathing. Then every minute, my brain's just going off into another place, another month later. So it's just fascinating. I went through all them years of training, this being realistic, you know, real hair, let's say, of training, waking up instantly, going to meditation, find inner calm and peace. And I'm telling you, I was quite calm and comfortable where I would disappear. And it's only when the alarm goes off, I actually realized, wow, I thought that was a couple of minutes for an event to happen, for it to be lost, where you can let go and say, you know what, just leave that. Or you can just persist and just keep on going. And that's the aspect of this patient journey. Constantly, like we have a beginner's mind. Well, hopefully you appreciate that what I was describing, like I had to start again. But if I had this arrogant mind of, wow, just last week I was able to do this for this period of time, how come I can't do it now? What's wrong with you? You know, I didn't really even go through that. I just accepted, okay, that's where I am. And I just got to start again. And I reduced my time. And you know, I reduced my time back to 20 minutes to build back up to an hour. And so therefore I was able to go beyond what I was. But it's just the journey. And you have to trust yourself. All this is the attitude I'm dealing with here. Trust the journey, trust what you're going through. As you start to go through this, don't desire nothing. Acknowledge and accept these things around you. Let go. Just be. Be kind to yourself and be compassionate. And I hope you appreciated that one there with that little story I gave, because this is what I had to go through. I had to apply all these different attitudes in that experience there, because it literally really surprised me how I could be in meditation and be so empty, and then an extreme situation happened where it reset my awareness and my consciousness, really had to restabilize my emotions. And I had to restabilize everything else as well, my brain. So these are the key characteristics: intention, attention, and attitude. And we are practicing meta awareness, really useful to be aware of being present and aware in the moment, on purpose, with kindness, non-judgmentally. Practicing these 3 key characteristics of intention, attention, and attitude. All right, any questions then?
Family, put some ones in the chat. Show some appreciation. I can see the hands raised. Oh, mate, that was amazing. Let me go to some hands raised. Let me see if I can get. Right, remember, if you want to ask a question live, you can raise your hand. If not, you can put it in the chat or the Q&A section. But I'm nice and relaxed just after that, just doing those exercises myself. Hold on.
Leon, that's the state that my brain be in most of the time. And you know, when you're in that state, yeah, and someone comes next to you, you feel the shift in your own mental consciousness because they're vibrating at a faster brain rate.
Yeah.
So you actually feel like a disturbance in your own field because you feel them moving.
Yeah.
Yourself, brother. It's deep when you are constantly in a state like that, aware of your sensations and your feelings.
Amazing. Kemi, you can unmute your mic if you can find it, Kemi. And who else is there? Kemi? No? All right, let's get Dara.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes.
I have to say this was extremely wonderful. I really took away a lot from this. I started meditating about probably 3 years ago, and what you mentioned about being in the zone and being able to completely meditate and then having a traumatic incident happen and then you starting back from scratch. I completely resonated with that because that has definitely happened to me. My question is that about 3 months ago, I had a traumatic brain injury and I've been having trouble like concentrating and just doing simple tasks that I used to do with ease before. What would you recommend in terms of like exercise that I can do to get back to that space where I feel confident in myself in terms of like doing activities? Because it's quite stressful to me because I know that I was able to do those like concentrate fully before, but now since it happened, it's quite hard. So what would you recommend?
Well, you can practice observing, looking at sacred geometry, as you know, like having in front of you a sacred geometry pattern and focusing on it and just breathing. And there are loads of sacred geometry patterns. I would say anything that comes off of the flower of life, or those interlocking circles, would be really useful as something to focus upon. I would also suggest as well, because the brain grows with utilizing both hemispheres of the brain by doing activity and movement simultaneously. Activity, moving. So doing some form of breathing and moving of Tai Chi, some type of Qigong, would be really beneficial along the journey. So you have a meditative approach, which would be involved some kind of focused attention outside of yourself, some focused attention internally. So your outside yourself could be a crystal, could be looking at a picture or a drawing, you know, something that you can focus on. It can be also like a flame, like a candle.
Okay.
That you're just focusing on. And with the candle, you will also initially look at the flame flickering. Then after a while, you'll close your eyes and visualize the flame flickering.
Okay.
And then after a while, you'll be going open eyes. So first, just open eyes. Then you'll be going open eyes, close eyes. Then you'll be going eyes closed. And that is actually a couple months process where for a couple months you're just focusing and looking at the candle for like 2 or 3 months. And then you're going to shift into trying to recreate the same candle in your mind's eye with your eyes closed. And it's a really intricate process. But that would be really good. And then, so you've done some kind of Qigong or Tai Chi to go along with it, some kind of internal practice to go along with it. And then ultimately, some kind of nutrition.
Okay.
You know, some kind of brain food.
Okay.
Thank you, sis. All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is it Soa? You can unmute your mic if you can find it. Or Sharon.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thank you very much for this. And I just wanted to quickly ask, is that, what we just did, is that kind of like cognitive dissonance? Would it be like in the same line?
Cognitive dissonance would mean the discomfort and the pain that you receive from a mental situation. That's cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
Can you repeat that? It would be what?
The mental pain and discomfort you experience from a situation, from a mental situation that is unfamiliar or you want to change, let's say. So cognitive, just way we think, but let's say a situation happens that changes the way we think, and then we go through discomfort as we go through those changes. That would be cognitive dissonance.
Okay, it's okay. Because I thought.
So that's not what.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, go on.
Because I was gonna say that is there another also aspect of cognitive dissonance in the sense that you are at a particular place, but you're at A, but you want to be at B, right? So instead of being, you're living in A, but you want to be at B, but in your mind, you constantly take yourself to B. And so you are kind of, your mind is having that concept of B, even though your body is in A. So, but it's a kind of a mechanism to use to keep you going forward to get to B.
Okay. I hear that that makes sense. You can use it in a therapeutic sense.
Yeah.
But I think most of the time, cognitive dissonance would be used in a negative sense.
Okay.
Because you would say the discomfort that you would experience in changing your scenario or your situation from let's say from A to B, and you want to go into B, but you're at A. But the changes that you go through to achieve B, when you're in B, and all that discomfort you've gone through of recreating your mind to be in that place, in B, and usually that description sounds more negative, even though we're not really talking a negative thing.
Right.
But in the way you described it, it does sound like more like a positive thing.
Yeah.
That we can actually use that, expect that discomfort to take place, and just willingly invite it, because you know it's going to happen.
Right.
You know you're going to go through. I went through something like this a couple of months ago, some cognitive dissonance. Like my whole world was rewritten around me, and I observed things in the world that I didn't know were there, and they'd be looking at me every single day, and it was uncomfortable. I saw looking at buildings that I see every day, and I never knew that they had other significance to them. I'm looking at structures in my world that I see every day, and not knowing the significant importance of them. And when I went through that process, which was not intentional, because I was just studying something else, I experienced a lot of discomfort as the realities start to merge together. And then I started to appreciate the place I'm in now.
Right.
Not knowing that, yeah. So it's an ongoing expansion.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna wrap up now. But Sharon, you've unmuted your mic. Would you like to ask a question, or was that the person?
Yeah, that was me. That's okay.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, Sharon.
Okay, all right. So
How about my question
there
there?
was another question earlier in the chat. Osborne asked, when you're doing the breathing techniques, is there any tones that you should use? Tones.
You can use tones. If you don't want to use a specific tone, because you know you can use A, E, I, O, U, you can use Om, or you can use what resonates to your own frequency. You know, as you go through your resonant frequency or tones, high to low, and then you can fluctuate between and see what resonates within your body. So as you're making these different tones, you can see where you feel them in you. You may make a low sound and you feel it in a part of your body. You make a higher sound, and you feel it somewhere else. You maintain that higher sound and you feel that part of your body expand. It's different if you're just doing like a particular tone and just doing one, or you're using a tone which is scaled on the musical scale. So then you're doing do, re, mi, sol, fa, ti, do, something like this, and you're doing one of those scales. It's a bit different. But when you're just creating and just vibrating, and you're just feeling your body vibrate through the sound you're making, and then you're connecting that feeling to a part of your body, that is self-expansion. Yes, totally different. And it's a really good practice. And I do that in the morning. That's why I talk about it so swiftly.
Yeah, people are asking about the course. So let's wrap up and talk about the course.